Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday live stream. So first of all, before we go on, there's a couple new settings that I'm trying out. One of those would be the internet. And let me know if it's very glitchy or blocky or whatnot. Also, we're going to try something new with the microphone, and we'll see how this works out, but we'll see. Anyhow, a lot of things to go over, so let's just jump right into it. So first of all, today, like the title and thumbnail suggests, we really have to ask ourselves, is everything worth it? And it really comes down to your risk preference and what you're into. I'm going to give you some good news. I'll give you some bad news. But, you know, in my personal opinion, there's no better place as far as like risk or actually reward than the digital asset space. However, for the risks, it gets pretty steep, and we'll talk about that. But today, just for posterity, we can see that Bitcoin is hovering around 109K. Ethereum is doing all right. Everybody's doing okay. We've got a market cap of $3.5 trillion. Maybe at some point we can hit the 4. But if we take a look at the health of Bitcoin so far, I know that Bitcoin dominance, I think it just hit at 64%, depending on where you look at, which is one of the highest points it's been since 2020. And we can see here that as far as the ETF flow, it's looking pretty good. And just this week, because we took Thursday and Friday off. Thursday, we did the NFA live show on Ben's channel, so I usually don't do videos after that. Then Friday had some things come up. But today, going into, let's see, today is the 24th. So taking a look at the 23rd and 22nd, we can see that the 22nd of May was one of the highest, if not the highest inflow for the Bitcoin ETF. And we can see that at 934. Wow. That is quite a bit. And if we take a look at just the total, and of course, we're talking about the net flow, you're looking at 44,000. That is in millions, so 44,499,000. And we come down here, we can see that as far as the cumulative flow, we're at all-time highs. So the institutional investors, the BlackRocks, the IBIT, which ones are there? Franklin, Grayscale Mini, Invesco, ARK, all those guys. They've got a ton of funds tied into this. Of course, that is for their clients, yes, but they're convincing their clients to get into it, except for Grayscale, who keeps dumping. And I think the health of Bitcoin is doing pretty well. Now, there's some things on the horizon that look a little bit shaky. Now, we can take a look as far as like the 10-year notes, treasuries, not looking too hot, especially with on the macro for the big, beautiful bill that Trump just came through and may look like a pass through Congress. Hopefully it does not. It looks like pretty awful. That's just not me saying it. It's a lot of people saying it. But that is for a whole other show. So macro, it's a little bit dangerous. But as far as like Bitcoin's looking pretty good. Now the ETH, we can see that there's been a little bit of a negative flow. And that's mostly because of Grayscale. But in all honesty, and this was from Vivek, and I like these little charts just to see how early we are. Because everybody says, we're super early and, you know, we've already missed the biggest gains. I'm telling you, I think Bitcoin can do much, much better than where it's at right now. It's just going to take a little bit of time. This is the Bitcoin adoption S-curve from Woo Charts or Woo Commerce. And this just kind of compares what the adoption of, say, the internet, which is kind of hard to see, the internet adoption as far as the amount of people that are using it, as opposed to, say, Bitcoin, looking at over time. We can see that the internet, and I was around before the internet because I'm old, but, you know, 1990, 95, 2000, 2005, so on and so forth. It's really took a little bit of a big jump because everybody has to use the internet. And this is where we're at with Bitcoin. Now, I'm not one of those people who say, well, everybody will use Bitcoin just like the internet. I think that's preposterous. I may be a little bit on the other side of that, but I don't think everybody in the planet is essentially going to use Bitcoin or as much as they do with the internet. But I'm just saying, I think there's a long way to go. And I don't think that things are going to zero. This is Dan Pena. I don't know if you guys remember this one. I like to throw these things in there just to remind people just how ridiculous traditional finance. I would say Dan would be a traditional finance guy, as he went around and said, hey, I know who's behind Bitcoin. And it ain't some effing guy in the cave. I know the guy. Of course, they all know. And they all know because you have to listen to them. And when that comes out, Bitcoin's going to zero. And, you know, a lot of people have said the same thing. And Dan is just one of those other people. And then he's the same guy that told people to not invest into it when Bitcoin was $3,800. You got him. You got the Dave Ramseys. You've got a whole host of people out there. And I think once they just get past and they understand what Bitcoin can really do, I think they will go away from this, but I don't think it's going to zero. But we'll see. But again, I think we're in the right place at the right time. And speaking of people going to zero, I neglected to say that Peter Schiff, which I don't really talk about too much, I don't really like to talk about him, but I will give him a nod for being ballsy enough to come into the Bitcoin conference, which he knows is going to be hated. And he's going to do there's going to be a speech. He's going to do I don't think it's a panel. I think him just talking. I think it's him and Natalie Brunell talking, matter of fact. And I can't wait to watch this. And I thought, well, maybe Peter Schiff is going to switch his stance, but this was just from yesterday. Apparently not. As he states, it's estimated that almost half of all the people in the world who own Bitcoin are Americans. That's true. Actually, there was a new one out from ARC. Actually, no, I think it was River. And they said that now in America, more people own Bitcoin than they own gold, which I can totally make sense because it's a lot easier to own Bitcoin. Just open up your phone and there it is. But he states, and that collectively own roughly 40% of Bitcoin, American speculators are being set up to be the Bitcoin bag holders as the rest of the world cashes out to the greatest fools. And to that, Peter Schiff, I have to tell you, I have to say touche. Good for you for essentially sticking to your guns and just saying, look, I've done a ton of research and this is what I think it is. Now, we can debate if what Peter Schiff's ulterior motives are. I just know that I'm going to watch that interaction between those two and I'm going to laugh my head off. So I will be at the Bitcoin conference and I'll give little updates as time goes on. We'll see how it goes, but that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. Bitcoin's going to do just fine. The bigger thing that I think of is stable coins. And this just came out a couple of days ago. Big banks explore venture into crypto world together with joint stablecoin. Now, there's a big difference between a central bank digital currency, and a stablecoin. A stablecoin is built on the Rails projects that are out there. And with that, you can take a look at Tether and just see which different crypto blockchains are built on. Solana, Avalanche, Ton, Celo, Kava, Near, Tron, which is the biggest at 75 billion, Aptos, and Kaya. And if you take a look at USDC, there's even more so. So my question was this, and if you're seeing like these evil bankers that are coming in, this is like the JP Morgans of the world. And it's a lot of the big names, JP Morgan, Chase, blah, yada, yada, yada. And that question you have to ask yourself is this: which chain are they going to use? Or are they going to use some type of private chain? I don't think they are going to use a private chain. I think they'll use someone that's already established. They're going to take a note from, say, Meta or, say, Amazon and just built on something that's out there. And they can say, okay, that's our stablecoin. And I think if we pick the right project that it's built on, there's a lot of room to grow. So let me know what you think about that in the comment section. And then also, to getting to the is it worth it type of thing. I saw this story yesterday. I had to bring it up because we've been seeing a lot of hacks, a lot of scams, and a lot of violence, quite honestly. And you have to think to yourself, is it worth it to jump through all these hoops? Now, for me, I say yes, but I think we should be a little more careful about what's going on. And I got to tell you, going to Las Vegas, I don't know if I was a piece of trash person who wanted to wrench attack somebody, that would be the place to do it. So whoever's going to a Bitcoin conference, be careful out there because something like this would happen to you. A Kentucky crypto bro, his name's John Waltz, allegedly turned a $40,000 a month Soho rental into a torture chamber to extort millions from an Italian tourist. Police say John Waltz. So who is this guy? Who is John Waltz? Who is he? So this is what I found. John Waltz, an investor and entrepreneur, primarily in Kentucky, sure. He was a part of Grin, privacy preserving crypto, led a security audit for Grin. He was a part of Hcash in 2017, joined the development team. He was a part of Ethereum hackathons, joining the winning blockchain balloting bot. He was a part of Kentucky Blockchain Tech Working Group in 2021. And early crypto contributions, joined the crypto community in 2011. Coin Protocol, blah, 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 right? So he's been around for quite some time. And it's shocking how people fall on bad luck, hard times, I guess. And this is what he did. So apparently, he kidnapped this guy, an Italian tourist, and he bound and gagged him, and he kept him hostage for 2 weeks. He electrocuted him, he pistol whipped him, and he forced him to do coke. I mean, for some people, you got to force them to do coke. I don't know. And then threatened him with a chainsaw, all for a password. And this is the dangerous thing about digital assets, that when you do these things, you can just transfer to your wallet. You can put it through a Tornado Cash. You can put it through a mixer, and it's gone, right? There is no KYC and AML, especially if you're a global citizen, right? Now, if you go to any bank, it's KYC and AML, but I don't know. Maybe there's bribes in there too. So that's what he did, and he was hoping to get a password. I don't know who this Italian tourist is, but he's pretty brave, or pretty strong, to last 2 weeks of getting electrocuted, pistol whipped, and be forced to do white lightning. But sure. The victim escaped barefoot and bloodied, thinking he'd die. Cops found Polaroids, broken glass, a gun, and even an AirTag collar. And this just piggybacks on, it was Ledger. I believe the co-founder was kidnapped. They cut off one of his fingers. They sent it to the other co-founders and said, pay us this. Of course, they were captured. There's another one in Chicago where a family was taken hostage, and all those guys pretty much got away. Looks like they were Chinese nationals. I mean, that's what the story states. And they bound them and gagged them and all these things. And it just keeps happening more and more. On top of that, we see all the different hacks. Like a personal friend of mine lost his entire life savings. So you have to ask yourself, is this really worth it? All these different gains. It is, it can be, but you got to take steps now. First of all, if you have everything on one cold storage device, you're screwed. So you're going to either lose that, somebody's going to take your passphrase, somebody's going to find it or something. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen to everybody, but why are you putting on one cold storage? What are you doing? Don't be stupid. Yeah, get a bunch of cold storage devices, right? And then on top of that, maybe use the passphrase, which is like the 25th word. I think every different cold storage wallet has that. So if they get the actual 24 words, well, they might get some, but they can't access everything. Also, if you have, 5 or 6 different cold storage devices, you just say, this is one. And if they torture you or whatever, hey, you only lost one. Or maybe you leave a little bit, or maybe do what I'm doing, which I'm going to put 20% of my crypto assets into iTRUST custody, which they use Coinbase custody, which is the same thing BlackRock and MicroStrategy uses. So again, just be careful out there. And the thing that I keep thinking about is this, and I'm sorry about the internet. We're going to change that next week, is that if you get out of this because you're afraid of this happening to you, then you're letting go of the freedom, the God-given freedom that everybody should have. And if you bend the knee to these piece of trash junk masters that are out there, then you'll never get over anything. So just stay safe, weapon up, and get a bunch of cold storage devices, and try to be a little bit more careful out there. I am paranoid as hell. And every place I go, I think to myself, who here is trying to wrench attack me? I know you bastards are going to do it. If you go think like that, only the paranoid will survive. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And then lastly, I just want to go over this, which was pretty good. This, I think I'm saying it right, CHARITIES. So CHARITIES is the leading decentralized exchange on SUI. I think that's how they say it. SUI or SUI, whatever. And there was this hack. And to break this down, my man Nick over at Coin Bureau said it very, very easily. Imagine hacking a vending machine by tricking to accept monopoly money, then emptying it of real snacks. That's essentially what happened to CHARITIES. The spoof tokens drained its liquidity pools of real assets. The attacker fed in worthless fake tokens. Broken price logic mistakenly gave them real value, while flawed reserve calculations treated them as legitimate deposits. When the attacker withdrew, the DEX handed over real tokens like SUI and USDC, or SUI. On a brighter note, SUI CPO Adenye Obiodun, nailed it, says 160 million of the 220 million stolen has been frozen and will soon be restored to CETUS pools. And that's where we get into the murky waters. Because now we have to have a debate on what is centralized and what is decentralized. So this is what's going on. And before we go on, I have said many times, SUI is going to be the darling of this cycle. I still stand by that. But then you got to start to think about this. From this point forward, moving forward, I personally believe SUI will be labeled by some as a VC centralized coin. And there's no getting around that. Sorry. Here's what's going on. So on Wednesday, the SUI validator community acted quickly to freeze 162 million of the stolen funds. More than a third of validators by stake chose to ignore transactions from the two addresses they believed to be connected to the attack, effectively freezing the funds. So a third of the validators, actually it was half. And that's where it's on. So half of the validators, first of all, you have to ask yourself this: how many validators does SUI have? Because I know like Cardano's got like 3,000, right? And then node operators are just node for Bitcoin is over 24,000. So how many does SUI do? Well, first of all, I was incorrect. Nodes for Bitcoin, there's 21,000 nodes. Now there's a difference between nodes and Bitcoin miners. I mean, they both verify the blockchain, but one makes blocks and one doesn't. And there's a lot more of those. So this is by far the most decentralized. And if you take a look at Ethereum, open source Ethereum Explorer, there. Well, there's 1 million active validators. And again, you don't need that much. 1 million or so. And there's also, take a look at this, network charts, validators. Million plus. That's a lot. And this is from ETH2 Node Watch. Look at this. This is kind of weird. Percentage of network synced. If the head of a node is within 256 epochs, whatever, are one day of the head of the chain, we consider it synced. If the head of a node is behind the head of the chain, or one day, we consider it unsynced. So I guess there's like 30% just unsynced. Crazy. What about Solana? How many validators do they have? Well, they have quite a bit, 1,265. And then what about Cardano? Well, here's all. I'm a stake pool operator myself. Not to my own horn, I'm just saying. And this is 1 to 10 of 465 entries. There's 10 of those, so you got over 4,000 now. Great. Almost 5,000. And SUI? This is right from suivision.xyz. You got 114 validators. 114. So that's that. And before I go on, can we just call a spade that BNB is, I think it's just one Windows 98 computer sitting under the bed of CZ, and that's the validator. And it's pretty centralized. I don't know if anybody says, no, Rob, it's totally decentralized. Okay, well, it's number 5. I'm just saying. And then Base from Coinbase. I mean, there's no token, but I think that's in Brian Armstrong's room himself. And it seems like nobody really cares about that. And they use it all the time, and it's super cheap. Just saying, just putting it out there. So when we talk about this, this is what's happening. And this is pretty well put out by SUI. Freezing is intended as a temporary emergency measure to slow down an attack and give the victim leverage to negotiate with the attacker. It served precisely this purpose in the CETUS attack. Unfortunately, the attacker has not responded to outreach. Well, they got like $50 million. Why? I don't know. Maybe they will just want to try to take it. I would say like this: if I was the hacker, I'd say, look, give me 2 million and don't bother me, and just let me go free. And I saved you guys from an actual vulnerability. You're welcome. Pay me 2 million. That's it. CETUS called for a community vote on a protocol upgrade to return the frozen funds without rolling back chain history or reversing transactions. Ethereum Classic. This is an extraordinary request in response to the extraordinary need of Celsius customer funds are at stake. After consideration, we support this. 2 conditions. We will abstain from the vote and remain neutral. CETUS must publicly commit to marshaling all of its financial resources to recover all funds and return them to customers until everyone has been made. Well, there's a slippery slope going down this, and I get that. If you can freeze transactions, which USDC has done, as a matter of fact, but that's what it is. Then you're getting away from the decentralized nature. And if you get away from the decentralized nature, then you can be controlled or manipulated in certain instances, which means a government can come in and say, shut it down. Now, can the government come in and shut down Bitcoin? It's impossible. China gave it a go, see how that worked out for them. And it's just not going to happen. But in this situation, yes, there is a centralized element to it. My question is this, and people will say, but Rob, we're saving all this money that's being hacked. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. The fact is, though, is that if you have the ability to shut things down, even though it's a vote, and roll things back if you really wanted to, is that as decentralized as you want it to be? And now it just comes down to you. What do you want to invest into, right? I'll tell you this. I'm still going to hold my SUI. Sorry. And that's the negative, I suppose. But, you know, a lot of centralized, somewhat centralized, have done okay. Like we just talked about BNB. Am I here to change the world? No, I'm not. I'm here to change my pocketbook. I know some people won't like that, but it's nice to be told the truth every so often. And that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, which I don't know why you might not, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. Everything we talk about here is time sensitive, even though some people despise it. And that's it for today. So let's get into a little Q&A, and I'll take your shillings in the comment section. Me and you both, Rob. Dan is great alpha. There's some really good people out there that are way, way better than me. You're only paranoid if you're wrong. Sounds like I didn't get on the sweet train. Hey, look, once you go down that path and you're labeled as the VC centralized coin, there's no getting around that. There's just not. Solana took a big hit with that. I still think it's not that much of a VC coin, because here's the thing. VCs do what? Are they there for the tech, or are they there to dump on you? I think a lot of the VCs that got into Solana early, they already dumped on you guys and me in 2021. And that's why they do these things. I think most of them are gone. Now, if they reaccumulated in the bear, hey, when it was $9 or $10, it's good for them. That's pretty much leaves it open. So I don't really consider it that bad. But for every darling of the cycle, they have to go through that if that's indeed what is happening. And that's why I think people like Cardano so much. I like Cardano. Stake pool, working with Indigo Protocol to bring an API integration into VRBO and Airbnb, because my properties get a ton of questions and I don't have the time to answer them all. Anyhow, did someone torture Rob's for with a wrench against crypto? So yeah, I got these two marks right here. I nailed my head. So the problem with having a big head and being over 6 foot is that you hit your head a lot, especially when you have like a melon head like me. So that's it. I support the freeze, anything to stop the attacks. And see, that's the thing. Like, no, everybody, this is a great point, Future. Everybody is like decentralized all the way, bro, all the way, until you lose your life savings. Then you're like, who's here to protect me? It takes a very different person to say, you know what, I lost my life savings. I know that sucks, but to keep the ethos of decentralization, let it go. It's okay. Or would you be like, hey, you know what? Let's freeze those. Let's try to get that back. When you lose your life savings and you let it go, come talk to me. Let's see. I just sold 10K with the Bitcoin today to dump in D.A.N high dividend yield ETFs. That sounds pretty good. Shout out to my friend George, who sold when Bitcoin was like 110, 111K or something like that. He had been holding since 2017 or something like that. And he's like, and I know some people will say, well, that was dumb because it's going to go to 1 million. But he's got bills to pay and things to do. And he's like, it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress to hold on. And if you don't have the funds to do the things you want to do, that's what Bitcoin's supposed to be, freedom, right? So if he gives that freedom, why not? And people say, well, what about doing a loan? What about doing this and that? I will direct your attention to Alex Mashinsky, who will be sitting into a jail cell, who did those types of loan and gave yield. And it was pretty bad. SUI wall protocol. Sounds good. Darren, I don't care about it, honestly. Esquire. Wow, I shorted SUI at 4. Bought in at 359. I'm here to make money like Rob. We'll hold long term. Yeah. Dirty Dan. Must be my brother. Thinking DOT is dead. Thinking of swapping my bag for a SUI. Sounds good. Might work out. I would, I'm trying to be careful. I think for the people that invested into primarily Bitcoin and then a little bit of alts are feeling pretty good, feeling really relaxed, no problems, right? Me personally, that's how I'm feeling right now. I'm like, well, altcoins are doing good, and they'll probably have a nice little moment, some of them, but the Bitcoin is the main play for me. But everybody's different. Like people who like Cardano, like Seth, good enough. Raul's Bananas ticket. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot to play this. Damn it. So everybody knows this guy, right? Did you know that Raoul Pal has over 70% of his portfolio in SUI? 70%. And he talks about it, about how well it's going to do. And I'm like, man, that's quite a bit. Let's talk to him about that. Anyhow, what does everybody think about Raoul Pal and 70%? That's interesting. I'm about to run a program for entrepreneurs trying to build for tech stars. Can't wait. Audra, sounds good. Good luck to you. I think, what's great about Cardano? Never goes down. No one has ever talked about it being a VC coin because it was a fair launch. And yeah, now it's not as fast as some. We get that. But I think it'll do just fine. Give it some time. George Roller. Not that, George. Check out how many devs work on ICP. What's that all about? It's a good one. Stephen Mitchell is talking about. What is it? There's a developer metric, and it comes out and just takes a look at. It's not here anymore. Shoot. But it took a look at all the different projects, how many developers are working on it. And ICP is always like number 1 or number 2. Like all the time. So yeah. Dogmite 100x. Good. Dancing Cow. So glad I took the time to disperse my crypto across multiple walls. Like, good job, Cow. I heard Bitcoin stuck on a KuCoin, but at least it's not all there. Yeah, great. Good for you. That's what I'm talking about. A lot of money was saved by the movement protocol underpinning SUI. ICP is great. Nothing to do with finance. Is ever essential in the world. They won't allow it. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, when I was around when the internet came out, we didn't think the governments would allow that either. Like, there's no way that the government is going to allow the internet to educate the masses, because then all the information will be free, and then the people will be in charge. And of course, we found out that the government just weaponized the internet and spread false information and used it to manipulate people, and then places like Meta came in and pretty much controlled everybody. So it's just really who has the control and who's going to do it. So could the government manipulate crypto? Sure. I think it's happening right now. Are you still holding a ton? Unfortunately, we'll see how it goes. I got to tell you, ton or the app, the native app Telegram, has roughly 1 billion users. There's only 8 billion people in the world. How ton didn't take off absolute is beyond me. I think it's still in the top 20 though, but we'll see. Should I sell my SUI? I have no idea on that one. I can't tell you because I don't know your specific situation. If you need to pay for rent or like a hotel room because you're homeless, probably. That's about it. I heard that. Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, and this is also Rob Pool's on the board of SUI. Well, there we go. You should have 70% in Bitcoin. And Barhoofty says, Raoul Powell is a paid shill. Wrecked. And there it is. Soft. Cardano lying fast. San Francisco played ballsy. I think it's going to do well. I don't use the VC chains. I only trade that. I got to tell you, I use Solana. Also, for the stablecoin aspect. It's very cheap to use it. And then when we were doing like the meme coin giveaway stuff, if it was on the Solana chain, which we did a couple of videos of that, super fast, super cheap, super easy. It just worked. People say, well, it's centralized. Well, that's true to some part, but there's 1,300 validators. But I got to tell you, I think that number went up. And I know they reduced the threshold to get in of how much how much Solana you had to have and the hardware requirements. So it's not just like you got to have like $100,000, $250,000 now. It's actually much lower. So we'll see. Yeah. New York Times, crypto is good for Trump and bad for America. First of all, I think crypto is great for America if they understood what the stable coins are being backed by, which will be treasuries, notes, which would be the US dollar. So with that, they have no idea what they're talking about. And of course, they can, buoy the whole US dollar just having Tether, USDC, or whatever banker coin comes out. Because you got to back it by something. And it's not going to be the peso. I fear true decentralized will never work out. We need the security and reimbursement from daddy's government, embracing CBDCs. So that's the thing. And people would say like, well, once we just figure out what all these hacks are about and how we can minimize those, then it'll be okay. There's always going to be a hack. There's always going to be something wrong. There's always going to be some screw up. Just like, what is it called? CETUS, the decentralized exchange on SUI. They screwed up. SUI didn't screw up. It was the decentralized exchange and the protocol and how they built things, which messed up. So, I don't know. Crypto is stupidly manipulated. Yeah, probably. Yes, sell your SUI in 5 minutes. Pretty good. Real Raid Boss says, Rob, do you own some hype? I own some, but it's on some wacky decentralized exchange because I can't really buy it anywhere. Maybe everybody can help me on this one. So, Hyperliquid was number 14, which I think is going to pass over SUI, which if there's anybody happy about that hack, it was probably Hyperliquid. Anyhow, it's up 5%. Let's take a look at. Well, it started at $6 in 2024. Look at that. Yeah, we're hitting all-time highs on that one. But the problem that I have is the markets. Look at these markets. Like, I know if you're outside the US, you're like, what's the problem? KuCoin, BitGet, Gate, Tapit, Coin, XD, LBank, MEXC, Hotcoin. And then look at the volume. Let me just separate this by volume. That's not much. That's no volume. 38 million in 24 hours. 16. This is why I think it goes up. There's just so little volume being done. I mean, Hotcoin is doing a massive $351,000 of volume. Watch out. And then you got 24-hour volume, $500,000. Oh, there's one for 10 million. Okay, you got me that one. But like, I can't use these. Maybe check XIO. Let's see. And then what's that? And then Hyperliquid. So yeah, maybe CEXIO I can get into. But as far as like an American, kind of screwed in that one. So I have some, and it's stuck on some centralized exchange hovering somewhere. We'll see if I can get that back. Okay. This is good to know. Digital Asset D.A.N is making hot teriyaki, air fried tilapia, and then continue to get drunk and eventually cry and ask myself why I didn't just buy Bitcoin and hodl. Next cycle I will. That is a hallmark card waiting to happen. I am staking in some Cardano projects and I feel safe. Yeah, it's pretty stable. Oh, Juan, it's got a good point. Rob, check out the 3-month chart from this cycle. We always had 2 greens, 1 red top. Could be in summer. Summer is usually, remember that sell in May and go away? That might actually play out pretty well. I am just more concerned about October, November, December this year. Cetus, yes, they screwed up. Yes. D.A.N, same here, bro. I made a money. And see, Crockett's right. Because with these things that like, I think Raul Powell, well, we can say he's a VC, I would guess. That if a VC with a bunch of money and a bunch of following is telling you what he's getting into, might not be a bad idea to invest if you're looking to, increase your revenue or your ROI. However, if you keep it forever and listen to the same rhetoric, which is this is going to be the best thing of all time, maybe not so much. But yeah, I think a lot of people made money. Except for that Luna call. All right. Tariffs killed Apple iPhone. In comes Solana Seeker. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Donald Trump is saying that he's going to put Apple and CEO Tim Cook in his crosshairs. If they don't start making Apple iPhones in America, it's a 25% tariff. We'll see how that works out. And Solana Seeker, that would be the new phone from Solana. I really should have ordered that because the last one that people ordered, they actually made money. And it was preloaded with Bonk, I believe. Yeah, Do Flamingo says Mexi did not require KYC a while back. I just don't like playing the game. For everybody else who knows, it's Mexi doing KYC. And Kranzner says, yes, but other countries will want a stable CBDC. Otherwise, their own currency will suffer. Welcome world of de facto CBDCs. That's true. And they can try it, but I think the majority of people are going to want to transact mostly in dollars. Unless you're China and Russia and they start to do different things for their BRICS. But I'm hoping that they start to pick up Bitcoin or XRP or something. The price looks manipulated. What? In a crypto? I feel like Rob should do live streams cooking food in the grill. Just a thought. That would be good. You know, like when your dad was grilling stuff. I had to like dole out some reasonable advice. Do you have the pie up on your phone? No, but you know who's big into pie? I think it's Tommy Crown, which I'm looking forward to finding him over at the Bitcoin conference. Charles did an AMA today. Have a look. Probably good stuff. Chasing VC coin at the right time is the easiest way to make money. I have to agree. Audra, well, two big paws. If you got a KYC, I'm messing with the KYC, it still works. Cool. The 25% tariff would still be less than moving production to the States completely. Interesting. Interesting. If we don't get a Fed rate cut this year, we don't get alt season, so pray for rate cut. I was watching the All In podcast, and they were talking about inflation rates, and actually they were talking about the big beautiful bill. Now, if it goes through, it's going to add on $4 trillion of debt, and that'll be inflationary. And they went through and they talked about bonds, more specifically the 10-year bond, and how it's been creeping up and going up, which will affect 20 and 30 year, especially with mortgages. And they made this comment, and it was pretty jarring, where they said that if this becomes inflationary and these things happen, again, here's the worst news you're ever going to hear, and then we'll leave. If this happens, then it could set the tone to say, well, if that's so inflationary, I can't cut rates, being Jerome Powell. What can I do? I have to raise rates. And with that, I'll let you simmer on that one. That's it for today. Man, what a bad way to end it. Sorry. Thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate you. See you on the next one. I'll be traveling tomorrow, so we'll see if we do a video, but I'll be in Las Vegas mañana. Anyhow, thanks so much, everybody. See you on the next one. Adios.